You're standing at a pharmacy counter in the United States. The pharmacist tells you your prescription will cost $1,200. You freeze. Then you pull out your phone and find out that a patient living in Canada pays around $150 for the exact same medicine, same active ingredients, often made in the exact same factory. A patient in Germany pays even less. Ask almost anyone why Americans pay several times more for prescription drugs than the rest of the developed world, and they will usually give you a three-word answer: greedy pharmaceutical companies. But that doesn't explain the whole picture. Right now, roughly 90% of the prescriptions filled in America are generic drugs, and those generics are actually among the cheapest in the world. When multiple manufacturers compete to sell the same pill, prices collapse. The massive bills we see for brand-name medicines are the result of a supply chain that has been fractured into thousands of pieces. A system specifically designed over decades of political decisions to strip leverage away from the people actually buying the medicine. In most wealthy countries, the government steps in to act as the primary negotiator. They evaluate how much a new medicine will actually improve a patient's life, and then they negotiate the price directly with the manufacturer on behalf of their entire population. This diagram illustrates a simple market concept. Volume creates leverage. Think of it like buying 1 million laptops. Because you are placing such a massive order, the manufacturer knows you have absolute bargaining power. If they refuse to lower their price, they lose an entire country's worth of customers. Now look at the United States. Instead of one unified buyer negotiating for everyone, the market is completely shattered. Private insurance companies, employer health plans, state Medicaid programs, independent pharmacies, and hospitals all negotiate separately. Instead of facing one massive buyer with the power to walk away, pharmaceutical companies sit across the table from hundreds of isolated organizations. The manufacturer holds the power. Divide a country's purchasing power into 1,000 tiny fragments, and you mathematically multiply the cost of its medicine. To navigate this chaos, a new layer of middlemen emerged: pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs. Originally, they were created to group smaller buyers together in an attempt to claw back some of those missing discounts. Over time, the process mutated. Imagine buying a gallon of milk, but you have no idea what it costs, and the cashier doesn't know either. Instead, your employer, your insurance company, a grocery benefit manager, and the dairy farmer all negotiate behind closed doors to decide what you owe. That brings us to the sticker price printed on your prescription. This is known as the list price, and it is largely fictional. Almost nobody in the supply chain ever actually pays this amount. Instead, manufacturers aggressively inflate this list price so they can quietly funnel massive confidential cash rebates back to PBMs and insurance companies. In exchange for the kickback, the PBM ensures that the manufacturer's drug gets favorable placement on your insurance plan. But patients without insurance, or those stuck with high deductibles, are completely locked out of these closed-door discounts. They get hit with the wildly inflated list price. The United States has engineered a healthcare market where the true cost of a life-saving product is entirely concealed from the person paying the bill. While middlemen skim value from the transaction, legal protections keep the initial price ceiling as high as possible. When a company develops a new medicine, they are granted a patent. For a set number of years, no competitor is legally allowed to manufacture a cheaper version. But companies frequently extend these monopolies through a tactic called evergreening. By making microscopic adjustments, changing the delivery device, or slightly modifying the dosage schedule, they secure additional patents, delaying generic competition for decades. This is why a medicine like insulin, discovered over a century ago, experienced dramatic price increases for years. Without the threat of generic competitors, manufacturers held extraordinary pricing power, leaving some patients to dangerously ration their doses. A legal mechanism intended to reward genuine scientific discovery has been repurposed into a tool to eliminate competition and lock in artificially high prices. The pharmaceutical industry argues that these high prices serve a necessary function. Developing new medicines requires massive upfront investment, with scientists spending years researching thousands of compounds that usually fail. The profits extracted from the American market help finance global medical research, and there is a tangible benefit for patients. Because the U.S. market is so lucrative, Americans frequently gain access to groundbreaking treatments faster than patients in countries that require lengthy cost-effectiveness reviews before a drug is approved for public coverage. The political landscape is beginning to shift. Recent legislation has finally granted Medicare, the federal program covering millions of older Americans, the authority to directly negotiate prices for certain high-cost drugs, clawing back some of that lost leverage. Ultimately, the American system relies on a severe compromise. The market sacrifices affordability, transparency, and sometimes equity, all to finance raw speed and innovation, leaving us to constantly debate what price we are willing to put on a human life.